Appreciate you joining us, Chuck Jaggers, Ed Madden. Hopefully, everybody had an awesome day out there. Let's get into it, man. So, the big news of the day, obviously, was Aaron Rodgers signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I say big news. This doesn't catch anybody by surprise. It kind of felt like he was going to sign with the Steelers. And I know some people were probably holding out hope that he wouldn't. Others were hoping that he would. I'm not too in tune with the Pittsburgh Steelers community. I've got one buddy who's kind of indifferent on Aaron signing with the Steelers. You guys know my brother was a big Steelers fan. It's why I tend to root for them when they're not playing the Packers. So I thought this was kind of cool that I get to continue to root for Aaron Rodgers in every game, but at least one, who knows, possibly two, if they get a Super Bowl rematch. I don't think anybody's going to put any significant money on the chances of that happening with Pittsburgh's current roster. However, Aaron Rodgers lands in Pittsburgh with the Steelers. I want to know what everybody thinks in the chat. Let us know. Are you happy with this? You going to be rooting for Aaron, or is it going to be something that maybe you're on the other side? You don't necessarily root for Aaron Rodgers anymore, but I know we're all as Packer fans going to be rooting for the Packers to absolutely annihilate them as they are on their schedule this year. Let's go ahead and pop that over now. I know we got Jacob joining us as well. Jacob, we're going to look at the schedule here real quick and kind of see when the Packers do play the Steelers and talk about it a little bit. But I just want to get your initial reaction here to the Aaron Rodgers signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers news. Obviously, no crazy news. We kind of expected it, but it's officially official now, and he will be attending OTAs or I'm sorry, mandatory minicamp next week for the Steelers. What do you think, man?
Absolutely. So I'm okay with it. I thought that I might feel a certain type of way, but as the years went on, and as obviously I had the terrible stint with the Jets there, and I was okay with him if he decided that he was going to move on from football, retire, do all that, kind of sail into the sunset. But there is a selfish part of me that still wants to watch him play. I mean, for a good portion of my young adult life, he was my hero. Still owe him a debt of gratitude for everything that he did. Obviously, the Super Bowl. Dude, I cried. I remember crying at my buddy Tony's house when they beat the Steelers, like drunk as a skunk, just happy as all can be. I'll never, ever forget those moments that he gave to us. So I'm a little bit excited that we get to watch one more year at least, hopefully, injury barring, that it's fun to see him sling the ball. And again, yeah, it'll be a little different when they're strapping up against the green and gold in whatever capacity, if it's just one game or, like you said, even if it's a second game. But I know it's going to make for good football, good drama, right?
Oh, no doubt about it, man. Neil in the chat said, I'm just glad he didn't sign with the Vikings. And 2-0 for this says, I am now a Steelers fan for the AFC side. That's kind of how I feel about it, too. 2-0 for this. It's going to be fun to root for him over there. And here's the thing. Do I expect him to be vintage Aaron Rodgers? Absolutely not, man. I think there's little to no chance that Aaron Rodgers returns to MVP form, this year or ever again. However, I was hearing a conversation on, I think it might have been ESPN Milwaukee. I can't remember the name of the show, maybe KBNN or something like that. I don't listen to a whole lot of those shows. I caught that one just on the way home earlier today. And I don't know who the gentleman was that was ranting on it, but he had convinced himself that Aaron Rodgers wasn't as good as Mason Rudolph. And I'm like,
yeah.
What fairy tale world are you living in that you think Mason Rudolph is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers at this point? So that cracked me up a little bit. And I understand there's going to be people dug in on both sides. Some people hate him just because it's now the cool thing to do, I guess. I always like taking those folks, to be honest with you, that hate on our Aaron Rodgers constantly, and just, I've said this before, I like to go back on their Twitter account, Jacob, and just search back and go, okay, when did the hate start? Oh, it happened right around the vaccination status point. Got it. All right, that tells me all I need to know, right? Because I don't care what people do in their own time or how they feel, about themselves medically or politically. I'm here to watch ball, talk ball. And that always cracks me up that the portion just absolutely turned on him around that time. It was really a weird moment for everybody in the country, but it is what it is.
That was honestly one of the first and only times where I really was embarrassed by a certain section of the Packers fandom just because, like you had said, regardless, I mean, everybody has their own stuff they do in their own personal lives. If it's just crazy to me that somebody that clearly the Packers, if you're a Packer fan, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, they were your idols growing up. Like literally, they were your heroes. As long as I can remember, that was who mine were. And just in order to turn on them on a dime because of either a political or maybe a current event that they took a stance on, it just drives me insane, dude. But that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, and listen, people have the freedom to feel how they want to feel. That's how I kind of see it at the end of the day. But I'm with you. It was just strange. It was a really weird moment. Like the Brett Favre hate. When he went and played for the Vikings, I get that. And someone else said here in the chat, matter of fact, I can't remember if I marked it or not, but they said, I'm just glad he's not playing for the Vikings. That's how I feel because it sucks. It sucks to kind of see one of the all-time Packer greats not just go up against your team twice a year. It's like they're harboring ill will there, and that's what cracks me up about Aaron Rodgers is he's not like that. Like with the Packers, every time you hear him talk in the media, he's defending the Packers. He's talking about how great the Packers organization is. He's talking about how the Packers own the Bears, and you got that weird little small portion of the fan base that wants to try to dunk on him and make him seem like it. And I think the part that bothers me the most is when he returns to Lambeau Field, if they do the same thing they did with Favre and they fill the bowl and have him walk out and they're going to retire his number and this and that, those fans will act like nothing happened. Like, oh, yeah, this is great, So, anyway, it is what it is. But with that being said, let's look at the schedule. That was the whole point I wanted to hit on the Aaron Rodgers thing was to kind of, okay, he's obviously playing for the Steelers. You see we played them in week 8. We're traveling to Pittsburgh. Jacob, this is going to be Sunday Night Football on NBC, baby. This is going to be absolutely awesome. Pittsburgh's going to be buzzing. I'm hoping that Pittsburgh has a really good record by then. Like maybe they start the season, I don't know what, that'd be week 8. So maybe they're like 5-3 or something like, or 5-2, something like that. And obviously hoping the Packers get off to a fast start as well. It'd be a lot of fun watching those two teams go at it. And I think you're going to get the best version, whatever that is, of Aaron Rodgers at 41, 42 years old. Achilles, the Achilles injury there a year and a half ago, however long ago it was. Obviously it should be fully healed now, but your body doesn't get any better, as the years go on.
Unless you're licking toads in the rainforest, brother. I'm just saying.
Hey, yep. Sipping the ayahuasca tea and licking toads and everything else you need. Not toes, fam. Get your head out of the water. What's wrong with you? With that being said, going into Pittsburgh, I hope the Packers beat the damn brakes off of them, dude. I hope they put him on the ground all night long. Nothing. I don't want anybody to get hurt, but I just want him to come away from that game going, man, that's the best franchise in NFL history up there. And that's what I want.
Yeah, and obviously as a Packer fan, I agree with that. I do think that there is a better chance than a snowball's chance in hell that the Pittsburgh could actually let's think about it rationally here. Mike Tomlin, while he hasn't wowed anybody, the dude just at least he wins. It's set in stone. He's going to win at least 8 games, 9 games. He's going to get into the playoffs. And what they do when they get into the playoffs, who knows there. But Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's washed. You watch his last year, people scoff at it. It's better than most, like he was still a top 15 quarterback, if I believe, in most categories. So not the best, not the worst, but look at what he had around him. The receiving core, if he's got DK, obviously, I saw somebody in the chat that said that Robert Woods was number 2. That's actually not true. Robert Woods is his 4th-string receiver. Calvin Austin's his 2nd string. 3rd string is Roman Wilson. They've got a decent tight end in Freiermuth. They've got 2 good backs in Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson. And the defense that's still in Pittsburgh always comes to play. There's a chance that if he can sling that tater and they've got a good offensive scheme, maybe that they're actually, by the time we play them, what if they've got like 6 wins? You know what I mean? It could be. I want it to be a better game, and then ultimately, obviously, I want the Packers to be victorious in that game. But I just think it's going to make for great TV, man. That's one that I will not miss. That game. I'll probably be burning our brains, and it's just what good TV, man. How you can't even write that script.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a blast, man. For sure. Somebody here in the chat, they had another comment. Here we go. Elijah Gwynn, going back to 12 or sticking with 8. Now, here's where it gets interesting, Elijah. Terry Bradshaw's number 12 is retired. And you think, oh, man, that'd be cool if Bradshaw gave him his blessing. Bradshaw absolutely hates Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he despises him. So keep that in mind. That's definitely a thing over there. Jacob, talk about that for a second and what you've heard on it. I mean, you don't have to go into great detail. I'm going to see if I can tweet out a YouTube link because X is not loading up here. I'm going to make sure everybody on X knows that we're live. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, it's pretty well known that Mr. Terry Bradshaw did not have very glowing things to say about Mr. Aaron Rodgers, and it does stem back to the vaccination stuff and all that. And then I think just the way that Aaron, in Bradshaw's eyes, handled some of the certain, couldn't get a hold of him on the phone type thing. I remember him being Terry Bradshaw being pretty vocal on Fox, on live TV, dragging his name through the dirt quite a bit, almost to the point where I am a little surprised that the organization was willing to take a jump on Rodgers, because, I mean, Terry Bradshaw is kind of that's like, our Brett Favre type, maybe even older. It's more like our Bart Starr type. You know what I mean? That's royalty there. And the fact that obviously Terry wears 12 and Mr. Rodgers was wearing 12, that makes for just, again, more great drama in the NFL. I would assume that he's going to go back to 8 or stick with 8, however you want to say that. I don't know if Pittsburgh has an 8 that's of any importance or value, but who knows?
Yeah, definitely. All right. So since we get the schedule up, is there anything else you want to hit on the schedule? Again, I think that's a good spot for that Pittsburgh game to be. And I think the Packers have a good shot to go in there and beat them. However, I'm not going to drink that Kool-Aid that I was hearing earlier today that Pittsburgh is a worse team with Aaron Rodgers on as opposed to Mason Rudolph. That blew my mind. I thought these people are truly brainwashed if they think that Aaron is that bad of a quarterback at this stage of his career. So any other games catch your attention here? I know we hit the schedule earlier in the year, but it's kind of cool to let a little time pass and then step back and look again, because that Washington game grabs my attention there on a very special day, September 11th. It's going to be on Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime. At Lambeau, and Washington was one of those up-and-coming teams last year. That grabs my attention early. Those first 2 games are going to be tough, no doubt.
Yeah, it really does, and it does kind of shock me that, I mean, coming out of the gate against Detroit, obviously division rival, when Detroit's got a lot of question marks on for themselves, obviously with losing Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, what they have done now with losing their center the other day, that was kind of a shock, right? So there are some situations now that have changed since even the last time we looked at this schedule. And to me, I just am still shocked, one, that we start out the gates with Detroit, and then we go off 4 days of rest right to Washington on a nighttime primetime game. Oh, as you said, September 11th, all the meaning in the world for that game. Then you go on your little mini bye, and you travel to Cleveland. Well, in theory, we would like to chalk that up as an easy win, but it scares me a little bit. Going on the road to Dallas, it kind of scares me a little bit, especially with the revamp that they've had in their backfield and some of the new talent, like with Pickens that they added. Then that early bye week in week 5 scares me a little bit. Just, having too much rest too soon. We basically have one mini bye, one full bye within the first 5 weeks. It's like, that just seems weird. Cincinnati scares me a little bit. Going on the road to Arizona, I'd like to think that Kyler Murray, that's one of those teams we could hopefully have an easy win, but that's not a gimme. And then obviously we see now how that Pittsburgh matchup has completely re-solidified itself as being a very important game for many reasons. And the rest of the schedule after that just kind of, it doesn't seem like there's ever a very easy part of the schedule. You know what I mean? That's what sticks out to me the most, is usually you're like, hey, we got a good solid 4 weeks there. But to hear, I mean, in this schedule, I don't ever really feel comfortable for consistent weeks,
Yeah, right. And, going into the Pittsburgh game there in week 8, I could see us being, when you look at, let's just go through it real quick. Let's just call it win-loss, rapid fire, Jacob. Versus Detroit at Lambeau, first week of the season, win or loss?
I think it's a loss, unfortunately.
I'm going to say a win. All right. So you keep up with your record. All right. Washington at Lambeau, I'm going to say that's a loss.
Oh, man, I had it written down somewhere. I don't want to. I kept it too. I think I had that as a win. Okay.
All right. So let me just get my columns here because I want to see what our record would be going into this game here. At Cleveland, win. What about you?
Win.
All right. At Dallas, I'm going to say win. I feel good about the way we play in Dallas.
I think that's true. Win.
All right. Versus the Bengals at Lambeau. I'm going to say that's a win.
I'm going to go loss.
Okay. And then at Arizona, I'm going to chalk that up a loss. Travel, all that good stuff. So
I'm going to go win.
all right. So I've got them going 4-2. Obviously, the bye week is week 5. I've got them 4-2 heading into Pittsburgh. What did you have them at? Same or?
I would have had them at 4-2. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So that's going to be an important game. The reason I wanted to paint that picture for everybody is you're talking about a primetime game, and you're talking about the difference between going 5-2 or 4-3. Kind of a big deal, you know. There's going to be a lot a lot at stake for that game, and I think it's great. You see me grinning because it's like, man, you can already see the buzz building up to that, especially if Pittsburgh gets off to a decent start. Now, if they come into this game and they've only won one game, not going to have near as much luster, right? However, boy, if they come in and they're sitting around the same record, 4-2 or whatever, 5-1, whatever it may be, it's going to be a lot of fun to see the buzz created up to kickoff there. So, again, look for that in Week 8. Anything else on the Aaron Rodgers signing and obviously us playing them in Week 8, Jake?
No. Yeah, I just hope that most Packer fans take it for what it is, which is, saying goodbye to, like I said, an all-time great, and be respectful. Like, I'd hate for Packer fans to be just painted with an ugly brush that way. Just be respectful.
No.
Unless we lose.
Yeah. I get aggravated when a portion of the fan base embarrasses us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
That's the stuff that bothers me is, like I didn't get embarrassed that they booed Favre. I thought he deserved it. He playing for the division rival. You know what I mean? It's fair game. I got embarrassed when Aaron Rodgers got death threats and people threatened to break his legs because they wanted Favre as their quarterback. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? So that's the main thing is just, as Aaron once coined the phrase, many people don't know that. Everybody loves to say, carry the G. Aaron Rodgers was the first person to say that. And it's funny that people use that phrase and then they bash him. But that's a story for a different day. So Chuck Jagger says 5-1 going into that game. Got it. Solder, man, I hope you are correct. 6-0 going into the Berg would be absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. He said 7-0 leaving the Berg. Jake, if we get off to a 7-0 start, got something special going on here.
I mean, yeah.
The toughest part of the schedule seems to be in the first half, don't you think?
Yeah, I get more nervous with that backstretch for sure. If we were 7-0, that to me is an amazing accomplishment. That I think that it's not a guarantee, but I think we'd probably roll into the playoffs with a pretty good head of steam.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so there you go. A little schedule update. I love looking at that schedule after a little bit of time passes by, man, for sure. Let's